Traveler, you've found RPG Lorekeeper, a realm of stories and secrets from the Elder Scrolls and soon other great RPG worlds. A new tale rises every week. Subscribe, like, and share your thoughts below. Your words help shape the legends to come. Chapter 1: The Shattered Tower. The night the white gold tower broke the silence of Cyrodiil, the sky itself seemed to recoil. From the silver lattice of stars above the Imperial City, a vast shadow passed, a soundless ripple that carried the weight of ancient tongues. The bells of the Temple District rang in confusion, echoing through the marble streets as thunder rolled without rain. Inside the tower, the air burned with magicka gone wild. Scribes of the Elder Council, their quills still wet with ink, were thrown to the ground as a gust of raw power swept through the sanctum. Tomes burst open, parchments ignited, and the ancient wards that had guarded the Elder Scrolls for millennia screamed in a chorus of shattered runes. When silence finally fell, the great vault door stood open, untouched, unharmed, yet something was terribly missing. The central plinth where one of the Elder Scrolls had rested was bare. Around it, a single scorch mark traced the shape of wings unfurled. The Imperial battle mages arrived too late. The air still shimmered with a scent of ozone and frost. Contradictory, impossible. Witnesses outside the tower spoke of a silhouette that blotted the moon, a thing of scales and flame, but not like the dragons of Skyrim's old songs. This one did not roar. It whispered, a voice like 1,000 overlapping words, each a prophecy unraveling. By dawn, the Elder Council had sealed the tower, and whispers flooded the streets. The Elder Scrolls had been touched before, stolen, misplaced, even destroyed, but never by such a creature. The tower's chief lawmaster, Decian Varro, wrote the first report with trembling hands. The wards failed from within, not without. The scroll was not taken, it was called away. In the following days, the white gold tower stood like a wounded god, its golden spire cracked by unseen force. Birds no longer roosted on its ledges. The divine's priest spoke of ill omens, candles that refused to stay lit, stars that shifted in the heavens. Somewhere beyond mortal sight, a pattern had been broken. Beneath the city, in the sewers that once echoed with Thieves' Guild laughter, strange lights now flickered. Some said they were remnants of the tower's lost magicka. Others whispered of wings brushing against the vaults below, as if something vast had passed through the earth itself. And far away across the Gerald Mountains a roar was heard, not of rage or hunger, but of revelation. A dragon had taken the Elder Scroll, and the world would never dream the same again. Chapter 2. Whispers in the college wind screamed through the stone arches of the College of Winterhold, tearing across its bridges like the breath of an angry god. The northern sea churned below, flinging salt and snow against the foundations that clung precariously to the cliffs. Inside, torchlight flickered in runic blue as the Archmage's Hall gathered its masters for a midnight convocation. Archmage Savirien, robed in violet silk traced with alien sigils, stood before the orb of sight. Its light, once steady, now pulsed erratically, each flare casting spectral shapes upon the walls. Around him the college murmured like a hive of disturbed scholars. Even the spirits of old magisters, bound to the hall's walls, seemed restless tonight. Residual thaumaturgic traces, muttered Toftir, his beard silver with frost. And none of this belongs to our plane. It's older. Savirien lifted a hand, and the orb flared, casting an image in the air, a blur of wings, half seen through waves of distortion. A dragon, he whispered, but no record matches its form. Its essence is not bound to Mundus alone. The apprentices shivered. Dragons had not troubled Skyrim for decades since the fall of Alduin. Yet here was proof of another, one that moved between realities, one that siphoned prophecy itself. The Archmage turned to the gathered mages. The white gold tower's wards were shattered from within. The creature used a form of tonal magicka, perhaps Dwemery in origin, though laced with something else. The scroll called to it, or it called to the scroll. In the hours that followed, the college became a place of frantic study. Books from the Midden's forbidden archives were hauled into the light. Scrolls written in draconic script were unfurled upon the library's tables. Through it all, the wind howled beyond the arches, carrying whispers that sounded like fragments of prophecy. One apprentice claimed to have heard them clearly while gazing north across the sea of ghosts, words that chilled his marrow. Time unravels, the eye remembers. By morning, the Archmage's decision was made. A very small company of mages would depart for the mountains west of Sarthal, where the echoes of the spell that stole the scroll were strongest. They would follow the residue of the dragon's flight, threads of energy that burned against the sky like unseen constellations. Before they left, Savirien descended alone into the midden dark. There, in the cold blue glow of the Augur's chamber, he whispered to the ancient intelligence bound beneath the college. "Tell me what hunts our scroll," he demanded. The voice that replied was neither mortal nor divine, but vast and weary, as if speaking from beneath the ice of time itself. "It hunts not the scroll, but what was written upon it." Above, dawn broke over Winterhold, pale, trembling, and full of omens. Chapter 3. The Bones of the World. The mountains beyond Sarthal rose like the broken spines of the world, jagged and ancient, their peaks lost in storm cloud and dragon mist. The mages who followed Archmage Savirien trudged in silence, their breath crystallizing in the air as the sky darkened above them. Each carried a warded staff that shimmered faintly, tracing the remnants of magicka left behind by the stolen scroll. The trail led them through canyons of black ice, where the wind spoke in tones that almost resembled voices. Old Nord ruins jutted from the snow, half-buried watchtowers and shattered word walls. The air was heavy with the taste of iron and frost, and with every mile Savirien felt the weight of history pressing closer, like something vast was watching them through the veil of blizzard. They reached the ruins at dusk. The site was marked on no map, its stones carved with glyphs predating even the dragon cult. A hollow in the mountain formed a natural amphitheater, and at its center stood a monolithic altar carved from obsidian. Upon it, faint sigils glowed with residual light, the same tonal pattern that had resonated within the white gold tower when the scroll vanished. Savirien knelt beside the runes, pressing his palm to the cold surface. For a heartbeat, he was elsewhere, visions cascading through his mind like shards of glass. He saw a dragon, vast and terrible, its scales veined with molten gold and shadow. Its voice was a storm of layered tongues, reciting words that no mortal throat could form. Then he heard it, clearly, unmistakably. "The scrolls are lies written by gods afraid of their own endings." Savirien gasped and tore his hand away. His mages stared, wide-eyed. "It speaks through the very stone," he said, his voice trembling. "This is no mere dragon. This is a priest of prophecy itself, a being that feeds on destiny." They camped within the ruin that night, huddled beneath shattered arches. Beyond the flickering ward lights, the shadows moved like living smoke. One apprentice swore she saw eyes in the darkness, huge, pale, and unblinking. In the dead of night, the ground trembled, snow cascaded from the cliffs above. Then came the sound, deep, resonant, echoing across the valley. Not a roar, but a single word shouted in the dragon tongue, so powerful it shook the air from their lungs. "Kren! Break!" The altar cracked. Runes flared, then died. A shape passed through the storm above them, vast, glimmering like a phantom. The dragon did not descend. It watched, and as the mages stared up into the whirling snow, they felt the unmistakable weight of its will, curious, patient, ancient beyond reckoning. By dawn, only silence remained. The altar lay shattered, and carved upon its surface as though burned by dragonfire were words in the common tongue. "Seek me where fire eats the heart of the mountain." Savirien's breath caught. He knew the place it spoke of. Vvardenfell. Chapter 4. The Scroll Eater's Lair. The ash storms of Vvardenfell howled like mourning spirits. Their red dust veiled the sun and turned the landscape into a shifting sea of fire and shadow. Through that infernal haze came the Archmage's company, their wards glowing dimly against the heat. The air stank of brimstone and burned memory. They followed the dragon's trail deep into the island's volcanic heart, where rivers of molten rock flowed like blood through veins of obsidian. At last they reached a cavern carved by no mortal hand. It yawned open beneath a column of black smoke, the remnants of an ancient eruption twisted by Daedric power. Every surface shimmered with residual enchantments. Runes pulsed faintly beneath the dust, and shards of ancient relics glimmered like the bones of fallen gods. Savirien felt it before he saw it, a thrum in the air, like the heartbeat of a world dreaming. Then came the voice, deep and resonant, vibrating through stone and flesh alike. Archmage, you have followed the whisper. You stand before Vvardenfell, the one who eats the futures of men. The dragon emerged from the molten dark, vast and terrible. Its scales were a mosaic of gold, glass and cinder. Its wings unfurled like banners of burning parchment. Beneath its talons, the stolen Elder Scroll pulsed with living light, its script twisting and reforming as though time itself bled upon the page. Savirien's wards faltered. He fell to his knees, shielding his eyes. The dragon lowered its head, one vast eye reflecting 1,000 ages. You seek what cannot be returned, it said, the words echoing across dimensions. This scroll spoke too loudly. It sang of endings even the gods dared not see. I silenced it. Around the chamber lay the relics of its madness, broken time shards that glowed faintly, echoes of visions devoured. Savirien saw fragments suspended in the heat. The fall of empires not yet born, the death of moons, the rebirth of dragons through mortal wombs. Every prophecy the scroll had ever held now burned inside Vvardenfell's chest. The Archmage gathered his strength, raising his staff. You would unmake fate itself, he cried over the roar of the volcano. The dragon's laughter was like stone collapsing. Fate is a lie spoken by those who fear choice. I am the unwritten word. I am the silence between scrolls. Flames burst from the fissures. The cavern shook. The mages fled as the dragon reared, wings striking the molten air. Savirien alone stood his ground. He uttered a spell forbidden even in the college, one that tore through time's fabric. The scroll flared, blinding white. When the light faded, the dragon was gone. The scroll remained, burned, cracked, alive. But in its shifting letters, one phrase endured. The prophecy unwrites itself. Savirien collapsed as the volcano screamed. Outside, the ash storm stilled for the first time in an age. The silence that followed was not peace, but expectation. Chapter 5. The Prophecy. Unwritten smoke hung over Vvardenfell like the veil of a slain god. The air shimmered with the residue of impossible magic, and where the molten rivers once roared, silence now reigned, heavy, sacred, and wrong. Archmage Savirien awoke among the cooling stones, the fractured Elder Scroll clutched in his hands. Its surface no longer glowed with divine light. Instead, faint threads of shadow rippled through its parchment, as though the ink of fate itself was retreating from the world. He rose to see what had become of his companions. Of the 6 who had followed him into the heart of the mountain, only one remained, a young apprentice kneeling amid the ashes, eyes blank with awe. It's gone, she whispered. The dragon and the prophecy. The Archmage lifted his gaze to the horizon. Vvardenfell's heart still smote, but from its depths came no sound of life. Vvardenfell, the Scroll Eater, had not perished. It had transcended. The mountain had become its tomb and its altar, its essence now woven into the seams of reality itself. When Savirien unfurled what remained of the scroll, the world seemed to bend. No words remained, only the faint impression of wings and the echo of a voice. The scrolls are not written, they remember. Then the parchment dissolved into ash between his fingers. That night, across Tamriel, strange things began to happen. In the Arcanium of Winterhold, untouched tomes fluttered open of their own accord, their ink rearranging into new passages. In the white gold tower, the other scrolls quivered and bled light, as if in mourning for their lost kin. The divines themselves, it was said, turned their faces from Mundus for a moment too long. The college's messengers reached Savirien days later, their robes scorched by starlight. They brought word of chaos, omens collapsing, augurs blind, time stuttering in fragments. The Elder Scrolls were rewriting themselves, rearranging prophecy, erasing threads of history that no longer fit the new pattern. The Archmage returned to Cyrodiil in silence. In the tower's ruined sanctum, beneath the gaze of the Emperor's new council, he spoke the truth that chilled even the hearts of the Divine's priests. The scroll is not gone. It has become the world itself. Every breath, every choice is now unwritten. That night, as the moons aligned over the imperial city, a shadow passed across Massa's pale face, a winged shape, vast and unending. Some said it was only storm clouds. Others swore they heard a whisper in the wind. The dragon sleeps within every story told. And from that day forward, no scholar could say with certainty whether prophecy still guided Tamriel, or whether Tamriel had become the prophecy. The Elder Scroll was gone. The dragon endured. And time, once written, now dreamed itself anew.